Good day and welcome to this very special episode of Their Story. On Their Story, we spotlight individuals who have made an impact in Sierra Leone and have shaped how we live our lives. The story we share today is a story that is close to my heart. It is a story that I know all too well. And today, I get to share a bit of that story with you. This person by no means needs no introduction. Over the years, I have heard her go by a lot of names. Iron Lady, the Power Woman, Her Excellency, Madam Minister, Madam SRSG, even currently Madam DG. But all throughout those years, she has only gone by one name where I am concerned, Mommy. I am happy today to welcome on set my mother, Haja Zainab Hawa Bangura. Welcome.
Thank you.
Let me jump right into it. Over the years, there's a quote I have had you say more than 1,000 times, that education is the key that unlocks the golden doors to freedom. How big of an impact do you think education had on your life? Do you think you would be where you are as Zainab Bangura if not for education?
It's not possible. Definitely not. As I said, and I've said it over and over, education is a golden key that can unlock any door. I think it didn't start with me, it started with my mother. As you're aware, I'm a first generation. My parents were not educated, they never went to school. But my mother was inspired by her being brought to Freetown as a maid, a house help. It was not a maid at that time, it's house help. And she saw the difference between her and the other young girls who were going to school. So she made a commitment to herself that if I have a child, I'll do everything to have that child get an education. She was unfortunate. I am fortunate that I was an only child, a girl. And she taught me at a very early age, when we were going through the difficult time, that the only way we can get out of that circle of poverty was for me to be educated. It's the only opportunity. And so she got me to understand and appreciate that whatever we're going through was temporal. If I get a good education, I will be able to break the cycle of poverty. So she instilled in me to believe that I can do it, but I can only do it through education. So that was why, I was very determined to be somebody. I followed her advice, I listened to her, and I embedded it in my head. So not only me, but when I had you, my son, you were 3 months old when I enrolled you in school. And because I understood, I learned and later came to realize what my mother taught me was basic education, because she was illiterate. But as I got older, I went to high school, I went to the Annie Walsh School, and I went to Frube College. And I realized that I have to think much higher than my mom. I had to think about quality education. Okay. My mother, for her, was basic education. She didn't know the difference, whether it's basic or quality. But I saw the gap that I had because of the schools I went to, because of the quality of education I got. So even though I became successful, but I still realize that there's a difference between basic education and quality education.
I think that's, I'm sure everybody can now understand why you are exceptionally passionate about education and about that is the only way you lift generations and families out of poverty. You've also talked about poverty, and I've also heard you say, I think poverty what is it you say? It says the
It's a
biggest
worst form of human rights violation.
Yes, and I know that that is where we come from, your first generation to break that cycle. But I'm curious, how do you think coming from that background has impacted your life, your decisions, and the way you see things?
As I always say, poverty, the humiliation of poverty, the pain of poverty is difficult to explain. And I've always told people, even at our senior management meeting and as I travel the world, nobody can talk to me about the pain of poverty. I went through it. I understand what it means to go to bed on an empty stomach. I understand what it means when your mother cannot pay your school fees. I know I experienced what it means when your mother cannot give you the basic that you need. To be the poorest kid in school, when your friends can afford certain things and you see them. That pain I've always lived with. And those experiences made me to be very compassionate, to have empathy, and to also be humble. Because I have left poverty, but poverty has not left me. Because I still have 90% of my family members in Yoni who still live below the poverty line. And with poverty, you don't have a voice. You are a statistics. And you cannot make informed decisions because people make decisions that are good for them because they understand the implication. Somebody who is very poor, it's not possible. When you're extremely poor, you're put in the survival mode. So you cannot think about growing. You think about how do I survive from day to day. You cannot pay school fees for your children. You cannot afford medical fees. And so you have to depend on people. So it takes the self-dignity out of you. You accept things, not because you want to accept them, because you need to accept them. So as a result, I was born in poverty, I grew up in poverty, and as I mentioned, 90% of my family members are below poverty. So even though I have left it, it's still with me. Because I go to the village all the time, I understand what it means, and I talk to family members. So for me, a country will not be liberated because when you talk about liberated a country, is the ability of the citizens to understand how to make decisions and why they make certain decisions. It's not for them to say, I have to do this because that's what I have to do. But it's I have to do this because I want to do it, because it's the right thing to do. So poverty makes it difficult for political developments. Political development and economic development, they are like the two pedals of a bicycle. One cannot go without the other. So that's the challenge we have. And so until people are able to say, I don't want this, not because they are forced to sit. And I've experienced it in my village. I've experienced it as I travel around the world, where people agree to do things not because they want it, because without doing it, they feel that they will not satisfy the breadwinner, the person who gives them the money, whether it's an NGO, whether it's a government, whether it's an international organization, they just accept it.
That's a very humbling characterization of poverty and what it does and the impact it has in society. I have had quite a few experiences or shocking experiences when it comes to you as my mother. And one of them was the first time I met somebody who told me that you were a very shy and quiet person growing up. For me, it was mind-blowing because I grew up, knowing you as, an activist, vibrant, fighting for Sierra Leone and all of that. But I know professionally you studied insurance. I don't think I have ever asked, but how does someone go from insurance, which, I mean no offense, but it is as boring as the legal profession is. How do you go from insurance to activism? What happened?
Again, I come to the issue where it's a survival mode. When I graduated from university, I knew I had to work in a profession that would give me adequate income that will allow me to look after my mom. Because, I didn't want to go to the civil service. Because you need to have connection, you need to have people to be promoted. My late husband was a very senior person in the civil service, so I know the history of the civil service. I didn't want to be a teacher because I don't want to die poor. I'm already poor. So I had to do something that would lift the family out of poverty. And I realized it has to be from the financial sector. And in Sierra Leone, they're only to the banking and insurance. I couldn't go to banking because, true or not, we got given the impression that you have to balance your book and people work in the bank until 12 midnight. And I thought, I'm always the kind of person who look at the big picture, who look far. I keep my eyes on the ball. I don't look short term. That's not my way of life because, like I said, my mother told me, if you fall down, don't fall down on your face. Fall down on your back so you see the sky and you have a long way to go. So I've always looked at the long distance. And so I decided that I have to go to insurance. I was deliberate because I wanted to work in the financial sector. So it's a job, it offered me an opportunity. But I became an activist because my mom was very close to me. I was very, very close. I was too, I was an only child. I didn't have a grandfather, I didn't have a grandmother, I didn't have an uncle. My only aunt had died, so we were very close. And then my mother died. And my father had left us abandoned, my mother and I, when I was 12. Because he wanted to marry me off. At the age of 12, my mother refused. So he said, you have an only child, you can't have a son. Off I go. He went and got another wife and got children. And because I had that survival mode, I also have to have a determination. Mm-hmm. Like I said, my mother told me the sky is your limit. So I joined the insurance industry. But I realized that if I have to survive, if I have to go to the top, I have to have the highest qualification in insurance. So I went to study overseas. And I came back. And then I lost my mom. Because, I don't know, we were the North. And by then I was not married to my late husband. And my father surfaced because they had to look for him. He had to come and bury his wife. And he told the family members that he didn't want my then boyfriend, but later husband, as part of the funeral arrangements because we were not married. So we came to a decision. I insisted. And then we had to leave my mom's cup, go and marry in the mosques, and then come and give my husband the authority to bury my mother. And I think the pain, I just realized this is not correct. It's unacceptable. How can this man who's left me at the age of 12, now I'm in my early 30s, I've came from the UK, worked in the insurance industry, I had my own thing, car and everything. I started asking questions. That's when I realized that the Constitution allows it. The Sierra Leone Constitution says we're all equal before the law. But at the same time, the Constitution recognizes at that time traditional, cultural, and Islamic laws. And because I came from Yoni, we use the traditional law. So my father had a right. So that incident triggered something in me
Okay.
that says, I can't take this. And then they told me, he has a right. And I said, no, what can I do? Then they told me that this is what you need to do, UNDP. That's how the story of me becoming an activism came in. So it came in as an accident.
Okay.
And then by the time I got involved in it, I realized it became a passion. And it's talk about rights. And I realized that throughout my life, because being a Muslim woman, I was disadvantaged. And I said, no, I'll fight back. And so that's how I started. And then, of course, I started being a women's rights activist. And then we had a coup. And the constitution was suspended. You can't fight for your rights under a military dictatorship. So I moved from being a women's rights activist to being a democracy activist. And of course, the rest is history. So one thing led to the other, but it all started when I felt I had been disadvantaged. You know, I realized that I can't accept it. I said to myself, this is unacceptable. And I'm going to ask questions. And one of the lessons I learned is the world is a classroom you learn from the day you're born until the day you die. And I tell my staff in the UN all the time, if you don't tell people what you want, they will give you what they think you want. And invariably, it might not be what you want. So those philosophies taught to me by my mother is that you learn every day, but you also have to have your point of view. And anything you do it with commitment and passion, and you will succeed. So these are things that have carried me throughout my life. So everywhere I found myself, I apply those principles. You know, I look up into the sky, I find out there's nothing I cannot do. And I try to surround myself with people who can support me. Nobody has a monopoly over knowledge. I try to work with people who are better than me in certain areas. My biggest assets I have learned over the years is my ability to know what I can do, what I cannot do. And to be able to ask for help when I need the help, to better understand it, and then I can move forward.
Okay. You spoke about transitioning from a women's rights activist to a democracy activist. I don't know if you know, but as a child growing up, constantly it was in my mind that why do I have a mother who has chosen such a dangerous job? Because I know the stories of the rebel incursions, of your name being on an assassination list, of, you know, us being fearful that they would come for you, of you going to the battlefront during the January 6th invasion, of leading the protest against Foday Sankoh. Was there ever a time when you were genuinely scared for your life during that entire process where you thought, you know, something would happen and you would not be here to see your child grow up and become an adult?
I think I think the only time, if I remember clearly, was during January 6th. Because we knew it was going to happen. The writing was on the wall. The rebels were pushing, you know, from Kono to Makeni to Mile 91 to Masheka to Mile 38, and they got to Waterloo by Christmas Day. And once they got to Waterloo, we knew it was gone. It was just a matter of time. And I can't remember the exact dates, but we went to State House, Ali Bangura, and a few others, and we saw everybody at State House packing their bags. Then we had the Betis. These were the Timney people who are like the Kamajors. They were like in Mile 38 or 4 Mile. And as a civil society leader, I was on BBC. The night before, I was on CNN. We were getting ready for the invasion of Freetown. I think I got my first call from Alpha Timbo. He was the Secretary General of the Sierra Leone Teachers Union. He had gone to the Ministry of Education to check for the salaries of teachers. He was at Kisii at that time, Wellington, but he stayed overnight at Wilkinson Road. So he called me and he said, the rebels have entered the city. The next person who called me was Umaru Bari, who was the president of the Labour Congress. He said, I'm leaving. He was at Kisii, you know, and he said to me, he said, my area is under attack, I'm leaving. Then I got a call from Marie Bob Kande. She was at that time Secretary General of the Market Women. She used to live along Fube Road. So she called and informed me. So by that time, we knew they were marching towards the city. It was when Marie Bob Kande called me, then we realized the strategy. They were pushing. By that time, they had attacked, there was a camp at Clay Factory. They were using the citizens as human shield. They were pushing them in front. And they were at the back because that's the only way they could come to the West End. So I told Marie, don't just stay so you can keep us updated. Then Madam Mrs. Jallo, because my office was at Liverpool Street. So she spoke to me when they got to Liverpool Street. Then there was a guy, I can't remember his name. He was part of the civil society. He was at Ascension Town. So by the time Mrs. Jallo called me, we were then in communication with the ECOMOG soldiers. So we were able to give them an idea of what was happening for them to build a defense. The strong defense was at Ferry Junction. Once that was broken, the only defense we had was at Congo Cross. So ECOMOG prepared. So from Ilcott Road to Tengbe Town Bridge to Congo Cross to Ascension Town. That's where they fortified. So they built, and then, of course, the attack started. So once the Nigerians built that bridge, so they got the people to lie down at Congo Cross, and then they walked across and confronted the rebel. So we were all up. They didn't know what was happening. The ECOMOG had built their reinforcement. They had called for reinforcement from Nigeria. And for 2-3 nights, we were all in our houses. It dawned on me that I might not survive. That was the first time in my life that I realized I'd risk my family. So I made sure I wrote all the telephone number of my friends in Guinea. At that time, I had a relation with the World Bank in Guinea, friends in Ghana, and friends in London. My accounts, I had an account in England at that time, and I had some money, dollars. I don't know whether it's $3,000 or $4,000. And I put them all in a book. I wore my skin. So for 2 days, we couldn't cook because you don't want the rebel to see fire in your house. So we're eating gari and sardine. And then I think the most difficult time was when I had to sit with you and say, this is my notebook. This is the money in my bag. These are the telephone number. If I'm attacked, just take this book, take this money, find your way to Guinea and my friends. And this is who you call when you get to Guinea. I think that was the closest for me. Not even when we ran into exile a year before, 2 years before. But that's when I really, really came very close to death. And as you know, it's Tengbe Town Bridge, that's where the rebel, that's the cross line. You know, and for 2-3 days, the bullets were flying. And I still remember when my husband went to eat something, as soon as he got off the chair, the bullet fell on the chair. I think on the 3rd day, Julius Spencer came knocking at my door. And I was scared. I thought it was the rebel who had managed to breach because there were armored cars in that area. And they knew I was there. ECOMOG knew. The World Bank had called the Ghanaian contingency that they tried to take me out, but they couldn't because the place was too. And Julius Spencer came and he knocked at my door. And we opened the gates and he said, the president has fled. We're on our own. That is the worst time. And the most difficult pain was that we came out, Julius took me out, we went to Nigeria after the push. By that time, they had pushed the rebels. We went and opened the stadium. All the people in the Eastern who's lost their houses, we put them in the Eastern. And then we started looking at the level of destruction. I've never felt so bad in my life. I just hope my country never gets to that position. But the destruction, we saw bodies in the street. The dogs were eating, the vultures were eating the dead body. That's the closest, that's the worst part of my life.
It really was a very traumatic period. And, you know, the memories are still fresh as you sit here now and narrate. I just recall that period very vividly. I'm happy we got through that period and we're here to be able to sit down and talk about it. And then you went from activism to politics. I grew up remembering you saying that you never wanted to get into politics. You never wanted to be on that side. You were very happy, content with being an activist. As you said, you were passionate about it. How did you make the change, or why, or what realizations did you have that made you realize, okay, I have done this activism by all accounts, and I mean, from my personal recollection, I know you were very good at it. How did you go from that to being, well, Sierra Leoneans like to call everybody a politician. So how did you go from that to mainstream politics?
Very interesting. Campaign for Good Woman, the first program we did was training parliamentarians. We found out that the parliamentarians don't even understand the standing orders. They have never read the Constitution. They don't understand what their roles and responsibilities are. So we did the first training for members of parliament, so that's how can they perform their job effectively. The second training, which was very difficult because DFID had to come in, because we have to train the ministers refused. We did the training at State House. So DFID had to come in that choker and gave it as a precondition from their funding. We found out all of the judges at that time went to the university in their 60s. They never did human rights. And this is a country that has suffered from so much atrocities that the only way you can move forward is making sure you mainstream human rights issues and human rights violations. During that time, and immediately after that, I realized that the role of a civil society, you're limited, you're on the periphery. You don't make the decision. You don't make the policy. You don't allocate the resources. You have to advocate for what is right, what you think is the right thing, and you have to work with the politicians. And the most important people are the people who make policies for a country. You don't make policy, you criticize, you make suggestions, you condemn, but you are not on the chair. And if you are not on the table to make those decisions, then you become part of the menu. They eat you up. And at the banquet table, there are no reserved seats. If you're not on the table, you don't matter. So we worked very well with the administration because we fought for election, President Kaba. But then we started disagreeing, and they started marginalizing. And I realized that there come a time when they build a wall between you and them. So it's you and them. It's not us. It was us together for election, campaigning for election. It was us together to work with them to move the country forward. It was us with them to build accountability. But for them, accountability was holding the ROF, the AFRC accountable. But accountability was not holding the government accountable. You know, and I say it today, and I'll continue to say it. The war in Sierra Leone did not happen by accident. And I've kept that philosophy. People criticize what is happening around the world in a lot of places. These things don't happen by accident, even conflict and war. It happened because certain things have failed. And that's what happened to Sierra Leone. The conflict in Sierra Leone is because of corruption, because of mismanagement of state resources, because of political marginalization. For long years, we had a one-party state, which was wrong, you know. And so people felt so out of the mainstream that nobody listens to them, nobody pays attention to what they're going through. And they thought the only option they have when Fode Sanko came with the message, it resonates with them. So they took it and ran with it. And so I said to me, no, if we leave this space for these people who are not listening, then we're in trouble. So that was the reason why I thought I could make a difference, because I want to sit on the table. I want to make sure the right policies are designed for Sierra Leone. I want to make sure we improve education at a level where at least the ordinary Sierra Leonean can understand what are the issues. And they can be well informed for them to make informed decisions. So that's why I transition. It's as simple as that.
It's quite interesting. And I think that it encapsulates the journey and reason why I get. So since you've been here, you've done a few interviews where people have asked you, you know, if you still want to be president, and you've said you have no desire and no interest. And I get that, because not just, you know, it's a different time and era now, but like you said, then you believed you could make a difference. So you got into politics. You've had quite an interesting professional journey. One of the conversations we have all too frequently is you still are not able to process how come you're such of this big phenomenon, because to you, you're
I'm
still...
not big.
Well, there we go. You're still, you know, the girl from Yonibana. Now, I want to talk a little bit about family. There are two things that always come to my mind. You spoke about one just now, that you got to a point in your life where you realized, or you were worried, or you asked yourself, you know, why did you put your family, you know, at so much risk? I have seen you move from that to a place now where they're the grandkids, and you dote over the grandkids. Family is such a big part of your life. But I want to understand why family has meant so much to you. You grew up an only child, but now you are at a place where you're you know, for all intents and purposes, you're the head of a bigger family, you know, like marriage and all of those things. Why are you so big on family?
As you said, I've gone through a lot of transition. And there's one thing that I have come to learn, that a lot of relationships are transactional. And because of the journey I have traveled, I've been a government minister, I've been in a lot of positions. Most people deal with you because of the position. They come close to you because of the position. They always say the top is very lonely. And at the end of the day, when the seat becomes very hot, when you're vulnerable, the only people that matter to you are people who you started with and the family. Everybody will go. They will leave. I am lucky enough because after I became a minister, you know, I left. The way people treated, that's one of the reasons I'm very appreciative of President Bio. I have to be honest. Because I know what I went through when I left, even under the APC, you're gone. You come through the airport, the way they treat you. Not to talk about when your government is not in power. We respect people, we deal with people, we work with them, our loyalty is them because of the position they're occupying. And after that, they don't consider you. You're nothing. The only people who stay with you are family. And I grew up very lonely. Very lonely because not only was I an only child, my mother didn't have a sister, she didn't have a brother, I didn't have a grandparents. So it's just me and my mother. So when my mother died, I was the only one. I had to make all my decisions. I had to struggle with everything. I didn't have who can I go to cry on the shoulder. And so that's why I was very close to my son. And then now, from one person, I get second person. Now I have 6. So I realized that I will exit at some point. And the only thing that gives me comfort is that, like they always say, no matter what, your family will not divorce you. Mm-hmm. You know, so for me, family is very, because when you see all I have seen, you've been through all I've been through, you need to come and anchor somewhere. And even when I was in my activism, that's why, unlike a lot of politicians, I don't accept people in my house. I remember when I was Minister of Health, Kanda Yumkela came, he was in Vienna. So he said to me, he said, you're the only minister I've been to where I don't see your office full of people. I said, I told my people in Yoni, don't come to Freetown. I'll go and meet you. I will not welcome you in my house because my house was my sanctuary. Never throughout my career in politics, nobody comes from Yoni to come and stay in my house. I refuse. So I keep my family, my life, private. And then, of course, over the year, like I said, you work with civil servants, people around you, they're hovering around you, they're screaming and shouting. When the position leaves you, they disappear. Mm. And I learned lesson. The people who stayed with me are family and my friends in school, university. Those are the two people who have stayed and supported. And secondly, people in my position, there's a lot of expectation. The way you dress, you're not yourself. Mm-hmm. You have to always protect an image, project an image. And so the places where I can be myself is with family members. When I'm in my house, I dress the way I dress, I eat what I eat, I say what, nobody's going to record me, nobody's going to take my picture. The same thing with my friends. My friends, I have a group of friends, as you know them, Auntie Sylvia, Joy, Pal, Flavia, Sita, all of these. We sit and talk, we do whatever we can do. I know that whatever we do within that group doesn't go out. And today with social media where you're recorded, the telephones are working. So for me, it's my anchor. It's the place I can be myself. It's the people who do not judge me. It is the people who accept me for what I am and who I am. And then the people I can be myself. Mm-hmm. So family is very, and I advise that to everybody. You know, you have to have, as you go higher in life, you have to have a place where you can shut the door and just be you.
Safe space.
Yes, that's your safe space.
Many, many years of an illustrious career from one profession to another. Looking back, do you regret anything? Sitting here, I know the sacrifices you have had to make for Sierra Leone, for the fight for democracy, and all of that. But when you look back with all that you have given to Sierra Leone and to the world, I always tell people I am one child who made peace a long time ago that I have to share my mother with Sierra Leone and the world. Looking back, is there anything you regret? Or do you look back and think, yeah, I did all I could and I am happy and content?
I don't have any regrets. I am very grateful to God that He gave me the opportunity to do what I did. And wherever I found myself, I do things to the best of my ability. I bring people around me who can help me, and I move on. When I get to a space, I finish, I do a job, I do it to the best of my ability, I move on. I don't have any regrets because the past is the past. It's gone. There's nothing you can do about it. Why should I spend time thinking about what I should have done when I was Minister of Foreign Affairs? I'm no longer there. The best I can do, if I have, and I do, there are few ministers of foreign affairs I coach. You understand? The best I can do is people who come after me to help them make sure they don't do the mistakes I did, to be able to advise them. And I always ask for help. When I was Minister of Foreign Affairs, my mentors were the Minister of Foreign Affairs for Egypt, the Minister of Foreign Affairs for Senegal, the Minister of Foreign Affairs for Morocco, the ones that had served longer in their ministries. I listen to them. I go and meet them. I ask for their advice. They tell me what to do. I do. That's what I am. But once I move to the next stage, I don't worry about the past. I've closed that chapter. I don't think about it. I move on. So I don't allow the past to hold me hostage. You understand? I always think about the future. How do I move to the next goal? So that's the way I am. So I don't carry baggages with me. You know, Sierra Leone people, I was surprised at the meeting. People say, oh, Mrs. Bangura, you know, now I've been first for democracy and for Kamba. I said to them, look, I'm 66. Shakespeare says, you come, you play your part, your come is a stage. You play your part, you exit. If you wait until they throw eggs at you, then no. I mean, I have my son who is here, the third generation. Why shouldn't I support them to do what they need to do? Why should I be standing there and competing with them? It's crazy. You know, so I see myself, like I always say, if there's any government that comes to Sierra Leone and tries to work good for Sierra Leone, and they say, can you help? I say, okay, you can't give me a job. I don't even want an office. Because I sit in my house, I can advise, I do everything. My time has passed. I don't see people who in their 80s still sitting in offices trying to find for a job. Why should I? Because I'm also very content. Because I said to myself, no matter what's happened, I think I have a government pension, as small as it is. I will have a UN pension. My son, I have a house. You know, I told people, oh, this is my only house I have in the city. You understand? I have a house in my village. So I'm tired, I go, it comes more difficult, I'll rent my house in the city and find a smaller house. Well, no matter what's happened, my son can give me a bag of rice. What am I going to work for? To do what? You know, and then, of course, I know how much I struggle to, nobody can balance being a professional, being a mother, I'm not a housewife, being a housewife. So my job is to be able to support my daughter-in-law and my son's family so they can focus on their profession and I can look after the grandkids. That's my job. So why am I working? Why should I be working? 8 to 5 job. You tell me.
Interesting. And we appreciate the grammar duties you perform.
Very well.
Before I let you go, there is consistently over the years is one thing people always say when they talk about you. And I am wondering if that is what you would want to be remembered as, if that is what you want your legacy to be. Whether here in Sierra Leone, in Liberia, in New York, in Kenya, wherever, people have always said, Zainab Bangura speaks truth to power. Is that what you want to be remembered as eventually when you retire and live a quieter life? That this was one Sierra Leonean that no matter what, would always speak truth to power?
I don't want to say one Sierra Leone. I just people would just say this is one woman who says it as it is. I find it difficult, you know. I say it as it is, whether I agree with you or disagree. 2, I'm very principled. I don't do things I'm not supposed to do. It starts from high school, when I was senior prefect. When I was in Form 1, they gave me short bread. They didn't give me no sugar. When I took over as senior prefect, the first thing I did, I went to the bursar. I said, give me the number of sugar you supplied to us and the number of bread. And the first day I took over, I went there for breakfast. I stopped the serving. I counted the bread. They were not enough. I told the matron, come and give us the balance. Simple. As I was senior prefect, these girls go out to dance in McKinney. They jump the fence at 12 midnight. I ring the bell at 12 midnight. I get the matron to do a roll call. Our parents sent us here to study. They didn't send us to go and dance. And those girls were expelled. When I was in foreign affairs, I remember it was health. I was in Ministry of Health. Government was supposed to pass a bill on procurement of drugs. They have to set something. So UNICEF sent us the bill. I thought this was wrong. This bill does not work. I'm not a lawyer, but I don't like this. I sent it to the Attorney General's office, and they came. They said no comments. Luckily, Tony Blair, actually, Abbott Smith in London were providing pro bono for the government of Sierra Leone. So I took the Attorney General office, sent the bill, and they said nothing. There is no amendment. I sent it to Abbott Smith in London. They gave us a 10-page amendment. I said, what? And I took the amendments, I gave it back to UNICEF, and I said, okay, let's all go to London. Abbott Smith cannot come to Freetown. So can you imagine, even the guy who at Attorney General office who wrote to us and said there's no comments. And the procurement, chief procurement, I don't know what his title is, and who else? And we all went to London, sat in Abbott Smith office at Liverpool Street, and they gave us what they wanted. They told us why they made those amendments. We came back and changed the bill. And I was supposed to take the bill to Parliament. And the Parliament said I should give them 30 million. I said, you're out of your mind. Where do I get the 30 million? And my PS said, Madam Minister, I'm more offending money. I said, no, to me, you get that. I took it to Mara. He was, at that time, they said the office of Chief of Staff. I said to him, hey, take your bill. You go and tell President Nkrumah he has to call his members of Parliament and committee to come and tell them, me, I don't have 30 million to give them. So either they allow, because it's a defeat condition, either allows them. So President Nkrumah called the committee in Parliament, whoever was in charge. He said, no, Zainab, you are not go passing bill. I don't have the 30 million to give you. You know, so throughout my life, I stick to my principles. I don't compromise. I remember the first time I was in foreign affairs, somebody gave me a check. He wanted to have honorary consent. I kept the check for 1 year. 1 month, and I took it to President Nkrumah. I said, look, this man give me. I said, what do I do? President Nkrumah said, he looks at me. He couldn't believe. You know, so I'm a very principled person. I don't compromise. There was a time I told President Nkrumah, you cannot tell me to do what is wrong. Check your job. And I can give you more examples. I was one of the ministers who never went to Parliament for budget reading. Because every time they're discussing our budget in foreign affairs, I say, we'll try it. Me, I know the area, I know the sea. That's one of our principles. And when I can't do something, I ask for help. I came to Minister of Foreign Affairs and I realized it was not functioning. I didn't understand what was wrong because I came from the UN. So I ran to the British High Commission and I said, please, can you send somebody to come and look? They did the management, whatever you call it. And they came, the first line said, the Minister of Foreign Affairs is very dysfunctional. I said, can you help me make it functional? You understand? I took over as Minister of Health. I was not a doctor. I spoke to Tony Blair. He brought people from London. His Minister of Health came, sat with me, helped me to think through. And he brought people as front office. That's the first time I had the word. Now I have it in front office. I brought people. And then I decided to hire Sierra Leoneans because it's you to bring some white people to come and help me. But what about Zuleika? Zuleika is now UNICEF and Njai, Minkalu Njai. And they worked with them. And I have spent 2 months. I brought the medical and dental. I brought the midwife. I spoke to them. I brought the retired doctors. I brought the international health development partners. I had meeting with everybody. I had a ledger. I listened to them. They told me what was wrong in the ministry, what did I need to do, everything. And I sat down with WHO. I put a list of things: drugs distribution, building of hospitals, HR, human resources. I dispatch a team that goes from every district to hire nurses. Because the MCHA were trained per district. And if they want to be hired, they have to come to Freetown to be hired. And then they have to give them the pin in Freetown. I said, this doesn't work. So the World Bank helped me. I set up a recruitment team. The district gave me what they wanted. And I went to the district, rang the bell, and put a table and a chair, and interviewed nurses, and appointed them, and the letter came from ministry. We gave them the letter in their district, and we had them. So I am somebody who is very goal-oriented.
Okay.
I go there, I do it. I don't know how to do it, I ask for help. And people help me, and I accept. And my staff, they know that if we have a head of state who visit the compound, it looks like a machine. The most recent, I can give an example, the president, they called me, the president was coming to visit me, President Kerr visited me on Friday. And then they called me on Wednesday morning. They said, this is like 8 or 9, when the grandchildren came on vacation the very day. And they said, the president is coming at midnight. I said, but it's supposed to be midday. This was Wednesday, it's supposed to come on Friday. But because my staff, we worked as a good team, I allow people to do their job. If they don't have capacity, I train them. I was standing in my office. We have the protocol. You can't bring guns into the compound. So I called the security, principal security advisor. I said, the president is coming at 12 midday. I woke up straight. And I had to run. I was going to the office at 11, but they called me at 8. And 9, I had to get out of bed and go. And I told him, I said, please, you handle it to your security. I was now on my way, then they called me, my administrator called me. Some police officers are on the ground. They said they are the advanced team of the president, but the security at the gate don't have information. I said, please, just tell them to go to the principal security advisor. I've spoken to him, let him handle it. And then the next thing they called me, the people who are doing the recce. So I called the lady who is doing the recce, the responsible for the facility. I said, go to the lobby. There are people there waiting. He came receiving. So I learned along the way that nobody has a monopoly over knowledge. As a boss, you have to surround yourself with people who are better than you in a specific area. You have to know your own strength. You know, your own strength and your weaknesses. And where you have weaknesses, you have to get people who have strength in those areas. That's how you form a team, so that you close the gap, so that there's no gap. So those are the things I have learned in life, and I continue to work towards them.
Thank you very much. Finally, and these are very short answer questions. I know the answers to all of these questions, but I think a lot of people know you professionally. But it would be good for them to get an insight into the person behind the name. So again, like I said, we call them rapid answer questions. They're very short, so people can get to know you as a person. What's your favorite type of music?
Country.
And your favorite artist?
Dolly Parton, Kenny Rogers.
What's your favorite cuisine?
It's either Indian, Chinese, or Thai.
I love Indian food as well, but you already know that. What's your hobby? Don't
cooking.
say cooking.
I like to cook. Cooking.
You've flown God knows how many 1,000 miles in your career. Do you prefer driving or flying? Or what do you enjoy? Do you enjoy driving or flying?
None of them, to be honest.
So they're just a necessity?
No, it's a necessity because my brain, I deal with 4 or 5 things. So I was advised at a very early stage that I should not drive. Because I learned that when I drive, sometimes I go past my destination because I'm thinking of something at that time.
I have a lot of stories about that. And
flying, I'm getting tired now. Now, I used to love to fly, but to be honest now, I'm tired.
I'm grateful to God that you're getting tired. And finally, do you prefer to spend time in a garden or at the beach?
Both. You know, tranquility. I love peace. Gardens is the flower, the smell. You know, I like scented things, whether they are candles. So I like the flowers, especially when they blossom. So I like to walk around it. The beach is also the calm. You know, in my office in Nairobi, when I sit there at the water, I see the water. It's the calmness of the water. I like it. I don't swim. I'm still struggling to learn to swim. But I like going to the beach, just lying there and listening. Not crowded beaches, not crowded, but some places where the bungalow or whatever is very close to the sea. So you just lie down, you take once in a while, you just need peace and calmness.
Thank you very much for making time to have a sit down with us. This has truly been special. I think this is the first time we're both on camera, so this is a moment I will treasure. Let me also say two things. One, thank you for all you have done and all you have given to Sierra Leone and the world. I know I hold a bias, but I think a lot of people like myself recognize all the sacrifices and everything you have given. And also to say just thank you for being an outstanding mother, an outstanding mother-in-law, a fantastic grandma. And I really do hope you have enjoyed the holidays and that...
I need a second holiday. I need a holiday after this.
and that we get to see you again very soon. So thank you for making time and wish you a very safe journey as you head back to Nairobi.
I'm not going to thank you. I think the most important person in my life is my daughter-in-law, so she's the one I need to thank, who have given me wonderful children. I think my best professional is a grandmother. That's the one I enjoy over anything, because it's the next generation, so we have to mold them, we have to help them. So I'm very lucky. Like I said, I started from one person, went to 2 people, now it's 6. That's progress.
It is.
So thank you very much for the interview, and I wish you all luck.
Thank you very much. This has been an episode of Their Story with Haja Zainab Hawa Bangura. I hope you have enjoyed this interview. I know I certainly have enjoyed the sit down. And remember, if you liked this interview and you want to keep on following us to see who we bring on set next, remember to like, subscribe, share this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.